Is it too late to take back making this video, or I think it's too late to take back this video. Oh god, I'm gonna regret this. Okay, well, before I start, I have to reiterate this is my opinion, which means if you disagree, you're wrong, and it is the what I feel is the most accurate tier list for competitive play right now, right this second, at the time of me recording this, which is 9:22 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on July 23rd, 2023. Now, the way I'll be doing this is explaining what each tier means, explaining why I put each element there, and we will go start from the bottom all the way to the top. Let me do some quick renaming this. CBAS. Am I allowed to add a tier? Add a row above. We require a broken shit tier. Broken as hell, nerf now. Thanks. Anyway, let's start off with our F tier. This is elements you just don't want to use. They can't really do anything to anyone under any circumstances. There's only one that fits this bill, it's radiation. Let's be real here. It's an element that can only do close range attacks, that is also very slow, that is also just the damage scaling is awful. Its only mobility is triggered on hitting someone. No, it's just, you don't want to use this element. It's not good. Literally, most of the commons are better than radiation. Now we're going to move on to our D tier. With D tier, it's really not... Like these aren't useless elements, but they're, I would say, pretty close. We're going to go with plasma at the bottom here. So plasma is... Its main issue comes from the fact that, like radiation, it has basically only close range attacks and just okay damage. Its only long range attack that stuns keeps the user anchored for like 3 seconds. It's just a sitting duck, and you just shouldn't really ever be dying to it. It's just not a good choice. There's a very good reason why these two are getting reworked or are supposedly next on the list. The next one in our D tier is sound. Where are you? Am I blind? Okay, well, sound just seems to be gone from this tier list. Pretend sound is above plasma. Okay, moving on to our C tier. These are just... they're meh. Like, that's the best way to put it, is they're meh. Like, they're not bad, but they typically either have 2 or more very big glaring weaknesses, or only one really good thing about them. They're just not really great choices ever. And to start off this list, this part, it's snow. I mean, on paper, snow is pretty good. It has a long freeze if you can hit avalanche. It does a lot of damage. It does an unreasonably high amount of damage. But aside from snow flurry, which you can walk out of, all of its attacks are close range, and its only mobility move can be stopped by being stunned, pulled, I think even tripped. It's just not that good. I mean, in Swarms, it's great, of course, and that's really, really funny. But, yeah, no, it's just... It keeps... It's out of the completely useless territory, but it's just not great. The second element in this tier, and the second event element in this tier, Dullahan. Dulla is another on-paper very good element. It has 2 pull escapes, very high DPS, has a pull, has a stunning move. The issue is 90% of its attacks you can just choose not to get hit by simply not walking into them. Scorching Splinters is a joke to hit, and you can just not get hit by the Pumpkin Mine and not get hit by Pumpkin Rain. The only one you should be ever getting hit by is like the Razor attack because you got pulled into it, but that's about it. I mean, that's the problem. Is you can just choose not to get hit by it. Next we've got Yin. I'm gonna get crucified for this one, but The only good thing about Yin is its fist. A 3-second stun is always going to be crazy, but there is even one more problem with that, and that's that really fast elements just slide straight out of the AoE of the fist, and it just doesn't even stun them that long. The rest of Yin's attacks essentially require the target to be standing still as well, and this doesn't help the issue of it being so fist reliant, because now that you fist on somebody, if you somehow fail to kill them in the 3 seconds that Yin fist stuns, you're now just screwed. Like, you're so screwed. Anyway, just above that is Desert, and the reason for that is the Storm, that no one pronounces correctly, and I'm not gonna try. Don't make me. I'll put it on the screen right now. Have a fucking field day in the comments, okay? Now, Desert has the Storm, which, when charged, deals 46, or like over 40,000, I know it's over 40,000 damage charge total, which a lot of elements simply can't handle, and a lot of elements also can't get out of the storm once it's been created, especially not with those other moves that stun, but also don't do that much. Yeah, that's the issue. It's mainly above Yin because it's immune to projectiles, okay? That's about it. Now that's actually it for our C tier. There's not a whole lot that's super far down here. It's actually a fairly good state of the game right now. Starting off our B tier, at the very bottom is Demon. Now, before everyone starts trying to crucify me in the comments, Demon has an issue. This is a competitive tier list, meaning we are assuming not the best players of their elements, but very good players, and very good players know that you can kite a demon infinitely, or near infinitely, and they just can't do anything to you. As soon as someone knows how to fight demon with any element, it just becomes borderline useless, and I can't in good conscience put it higher than this, knowing that. Next we have Lava, and this is more here for a lack of data than anything else. I have very little experience fighting or using Lava. It on paper has one of the best iframe moves in the entire game with Obsidian Case, has good damage and temporary flight. So in theory, it's great. I just haven't seen anyone do anything with it except sit there, be invincible for a little bit, and then get killed. Like, it's okay, but it's not a whole lot more. You know? In a similar vein, Permafrost is, in theory, incredible. 3-second stun. Pretty good damage, and one of the fastest mobility in the game. The issue with your mobility is you now lack the ability not to move in a straight line because Glacial Path doesn't let you do that. Your turns are always graded. Like you can't snap in a direction with it. Also, because Hailstorm's damage is very delayed, it typically doesn't get through before the Permafrost user dies, even with the freeze. So, again, it's good, but not a whole lot more. In a similar vein, Supernova. This one's more here for the RNG aspect. Skyfall is good, but only when it decides to hit the person you're trying to do it with. You can either do 5k damage with it, or 25k damage with it, and that's all up to RNGesus. The other main issue I have with it, and I have seen this be a problem over and over again, is the fact that the fist, the teleport, doesn't give the user iframes while you're teleporting. So in the middle of that animation, you can just get killed, even though you're trying to run away, which is an issue for Supernova because it takes usually 2 combos to kill the person. At least that I've seen. So again, it's good, but, you know, there's definitely better things. I mean, Firework being as high as I'm putting it here, which is the next element, is almost comical, given that Demon is down here, but Firework, as I've noticed recently, has the advantage of 5 pull escapes every 5 seconds in the form of the 5 uses of Firework Transversal, and it can air camp, which is not something anything before it can do organically. Now, the ability to air camp alone makes it always more useful than Demon, which is hilarious to me. Firework does an absurd amount of damage. The only issue is sometimes it is very hard to get that out of it because they have to sit still for you to actually get the last two moves to hit. Firework show and recursive fireworks. But you can literally air camp and be like a little attack helicopter with firework rocket, which does 9,000 damage for some reason when it's charged. Our rocket blast deals like 6,000 damage when charged. It does such an unreasonable amount of damage when rewarding you for air camping that it's just a good option. If you want to switch to something, switch to firework. Terra, for the longest time, was just so bad, man. It was the anti-air camp element, that the quote-unquote anti-air camp element that couldn't kill air campers. It was so funny. I mean, yeah, it took no damage, but it couldn't hit them either. Now that Terra's damage reduction is based on distance away from it and not distance off the ground, Terra is actually alright. It's pretty good. It is the say it to my face element. It is quite literally impossible to kill from extreme ranges, so Heaven's Wrath will actually struggle trying to snipe it. And it does just dominate at close range. The issue being, once you get close enough at that close range, it kinda suffers. It's good, but there are certain elements like Necro, like HW at close range can DPS race it. Stuff like that, and it's good. It's really good. It's just not great, if that makes sense. There are a lot of situations where it just gets countered into oblivion. Combustion is the fuck around and find out element. It is not a threat until it's a threat. Combustion will just punish you for getting too close to it without being prepared because it will keep pulling you in, and it deals a lot of damage if you are not ready for it. But at the end of the day, Combustion has that same readiness issue that Demon has, just to a lesser degree. If you know not to go next to it, and you can't get third-partied by it, like in 3v3s or something, it's just not that much of a threat. And that's kind of all there is to that. Chemomancer is in a similar vein. It's a lot better in 3v3s because you can sort of pick people off in third party, but it's not a threat unless you let it become one, if that makes sense. The nuke is crazy, sure, and it can one-shot literally the entire team, but you have to give them the 30-45 seconds it requires to get there. And in a competitive environment, this typically doesn't happen. I love the element, and it's good, but it's got a great lifesteal and regen. And in the hands of the right players can be very scary, but it's just not. There are just better options. The thing that the thing is about this next placement, it's Lunar. The thing Lunar has, the issue Lunar has, in my opinion, is partially the same issue as Lava's. I have very little experience with it, and I conceptually have an issue with accepting that it can be better than this. Lunar's air camping, which is its only form of not getting insta-fucked, is anchor-based entirely, which is okay when you look at something like Firework, but Lunar has to sit there, and none of its moves can be easily hit from the sky, other than the beam. So I have a very big issue with, I guess, putting it any higher than B tier. Wart, just deal with it, man. I'm not here to play this game. The thing that Zephyr has over everything below it is infinite flight. Zephyr is really good for that reason. And just like the rest of our ATL elements, is a good option pretty much no matter what. They can typically get hard countered and in certain situations, but they're never a bad choice. Never. Zephyr in particular is a great option for anti-air camp and for if you just want to be a little war criminal downdrafting everyone with one of the best stun type moves in the entire game. And The only issue with it is this somewhat lackluster damage. I mean, you know, it can't really defend itself if it gets pulled out of the sky. It's kind of dead, but that's a good thing for balancing. So yeah. Um, right above it is Toxin. You know, I underrated Toxin for the longest time, but man, is that 40% damage reduction impactful on your opponent. In the right hands, Toxin goes from mildly annoying to frickin' scary. In 3v3s, it's not so bad because, well, more can be worse depending on how you look at it. Just because there's more people to focus on and they can't quite deal with a lot of people at once. But oh my god, can they win some stupid DPS races because of that reduction? And it's got pretty decent range, good slowing power. It can protect itself from one-shot rushes in theory with that damage reduction. Overall, pretty good. Oh boy, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one. Excel is next. Excel has a very, very similar issue to Demon, just a little bit differently. The thing is, Excel's skill floor is quite literally the exact same as its skill ceiling, which means once you find that one optimal combo, there's nothing else to do with it. And when you are stacking that next to the potential at this level of play of a bunch of the other elements, it's just extremely lackluster and gets just screwed over by everything. Hydra, Dest, HW, Necro, Telly, all of these things can beat Excel. I'm not factoring in flings because it's clearly not intended as a glitch. But it just can't justify putting it any higher when there's not much else you can do with it. Oh boy, here's another one. Hydra is the same issue. You can't really do a whole lot more than air camp, pull people, and use Triblast. And once people know that you can jump over Triblast while still pulled and not get hit by it, it sort of falls into this mediocre tier. Like, it's good, but there are better options, really. And that's kind of the main situation. Oh man, I was really surprised when I looked at it to see Chaos this high on the list. But the thing is, Chaos counters a lot of the best stuff right now. Destruction, nature, well, to a degree, nature. You've got stuff like Cosmic that give it trouble. It gives Excel trouble, which is, despite not being great, a very popular choice. Chaos can semi-effectively deal with air campers, which is a massive plus. It has a lot of lifesteal and is generally a very good element. And on top of that, it's kind of hard to stop because its mobility is not classified as a mobility move and is fling based. So it's not just harder for you to predict where you're going, but also for your opponent. It helps quite a bit. Oh, poor Telly. Telly. Telly has been that one myth that's sort of just been left behind recently. It's just, it's so vulnerable when it's on the ground that it's hard to put it higher, but, you know, it's also still a very good choice because it hard counters stuff like Arc, like Obsidian, like Nature at the very top, and so it's just going to be good as a counter meta option. It also deals with air campers very well. It's literally the king of air camp killers. And is overall pretty good and is, again, scary in the right hands. The issue being, once it touches down until it can use Impulsion again, it's just completely, like, it's a sitting duck. And our next little entry is Phoenix, which is a very good all-around choice. Really, really it is. I mean, it sometimes can struggle against air campers, and um, it has some issues against stuff like Cosmic, and definitely gets destroyed by Prism, but is overall a solid choice. I mean, it's got a lot of push and pull moves. It's got good zoning in the form of Searing Storm. It's got good mobility. It's even got really good damage in the form of Screech. If you direct hit it, it does 12,000 damage. And it's overall very good. It's just, again, there is a certain limit on what you can do with it. Although, again, I've been proven wrong in that scenario more than once. Yeah. Yang. This is an issue of just not being able to hit shit that's 5 feet off the ground. Well, not really, but Yang is a element with 3 moves. Light Speed, which is an iframe available every 3 seconds, very good. Final Blow, which is a very high damaging move that scales in power the more people you have inside the radius, which can be very good in 3v3s. And you've got a really long stun with the Shimmering Beams. If you can hit Shimmering Beams and use your iframes effectively, Yang is a great option. It does struggle a little bit against super high damage output, and against stuff that has healing, or God forbid the element air camps like Hydra, or like Telly, because Yang is not going to have a very fun time. Chaos too. Yang struggles with Chaos. But, you know, it's a good overall fallback element for an Ascendant especially. And I'm really sad that I have to put time this low on this list. This is a bean mistake, I think anyway. Time, despite having a slight hitbox buff since last update, on the slowing pillar on future time strike, it lost its mobility cancel, so it doesn't slow fast enough, and people can just walk straight through the beam. It's almost useless, and it makes it worse than both the bigger hitbox no momentum cancel and smaller hitbox momentum cancel versions of this time beam. It's just, and with that weakness, it loses one of its major, like, what I call seal the deal moves. Essentially lets you hit other things like the bomb, like the time bomb, like the present bomb and the past spam. It just lets you do other stuff a lot easier. And without that, I can't put it in the top anymore, even ignoring its use of the one-shot. And it's kind of unfortunate considering it's a pretty damn good element. Next up is Illusion. After the recent life balance cooldown nerf from 25 seconds to 32 seconds, it took a major hit, but this is kind of where it should be. Illusion is pretty good, and by nature is just really, really hard to kill. I mean, it wasn't uncommon before that nerf, and even still now, to see an Illusion solo in 3v3s just because they weren't killed first. They are cockroaches. They have a clone that blows up, throws you across the arena, and gives them 3 seconds of invincibility. It's so crazy. You have being able to heal off of a clone, general invisibility. Granted, this is countered by Aura Vision, but again, not everyone has that option. Illusion has its counters, but is quite good, and is always a good option if you just want to, mess around, get some good wins. It's great. Armament is up high for up to here specifically for one reason, and that is because it is the only one of the flying elements that never has to come down to damage people. Strafe allows a potential of 10,000 damage. I think it's every 10-ish seconds, including the actual use time, with no travel time, so you could sit up in the stratosphere and laser people. Its only real issue is if it gets pulled down, it kind of just dies. So, there's that. Other than that, it's a generally very good airborne element. It's just stuff struggles to kill it, and it's good. And yeah, Scout, if you're watching, Christmas Spirit is objectively the best. I would have renamed it, but that took way too much work. Inferno is not something I expected to put this high, but it's essentially sort of like Budget Obsidian with more insurance. It's a very good rush element, where if you rush them, use your Storm on them, and use Seer, which is a grab move, which means your opponent cannot use moves of any kind until it's over, you can do some serious damage, and especially in 3v3s where people can be distracted, you can just pick them off one at a time. Crazy. It's just a really good option that I kind of underrated up to this point. Sort of like the next one. Torrent is pretty much entirely dependent on your ability to aim Turbulent Wave. It's kind of just how the fact of the matter. being able to aim the stun that allows you to hit Riptide, which is 13,000 damage for guaranteed, is kind of important. Torrent also has the added benefit of projectile immunity and a aura that damages people around you. It's not the fastest thing in the world or the most damaging thing in the world, but Torrent gets work done with that stun, man. It's crazy. Additionally, High Tides as a defense move has the potential to do 26,000 damage. Granted, it is RNG based, but it can be absolutely crazy. Next. Did everybody think that because I'm a Necroman, I'd put Necro in S tier? No, it's not S tier. But it is quite a bit better than I had thought it was a while ago. Due to the recent discovery of some new techs, I have been able to mitigate most of its general weaknesses. There is still the huge layering one that, especially in 3v3s, it's extremely weak at the start of the match and can just be destroyed before it can do anything. Necromancer is a very momentum-based element, so once you can get that going, it can be really, really scary, but the issue is actually getting that going, and especially in 3v3s, which is taken into account here, Necro just kind of struggles sometimes, and especially against some of the S tier elements, which we'll get to, like Heaven's Wrath. It just kind of gets destroyed before it does anything, and so you can't justify putting it any higher. War Crimea River. You are the only one that can use Solar well enough to justify it being in the S tier, and I will not take any questions at this time. Solar has, in theory, one of the highest damage outputs in this entire game, and can, in theory, kill you before you do anything because of that beam. The issue being how hard that beam is to aim. I don't know, I just feel like at this skill level, if I'd use Seb as a guide, Solar isn't an S tier pick. Like, it's a good pick, don't get me wrong, but it's not one of the best picks. It's just good. It has decent defense, even a little bit of a stun to help you with that beam, but nobody at this skill level is perfect beaming people, and you can fight me. I don't care. Now, we're going to start hitting the S tier and the S tier, and then we'll go to the broken tier. But at the very bottom of the S tier is still Obsidian. Any element that can deal in excess of 40,000 damage from one rush with bleed damage, which also has the added benefit of ignoring revives, and can go past some iframes in a lot of cases, will be extremely strong. Despite the Igneous Volley nerf that made it, well, Igneous Volley not a free hit on the damn combo, it's still really good for general disruption. And it will just always be a really good option, especially for an Ascendant element. It is good. It's essentially budget Dragon. Up next, we have, well, Dragon. Dragon is just, at least in my opinion, Obsidian, but a little better. It has a silencing option. It has Flame Breath every 6 seconds, so the rush is available more often. It has Flame Wing Lift for better escapes. And it will, again, an element that can one-shot rush you every 6 seconds will always be good. Very good, even. I mean, it is a little bit more vulnerable than Obsidian, I'll grant you, but it is still an incredible option. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with Dragon as long as you can aim it. Up next, we have Mech. Oh, and here's sound here the entire time, and I didn't see it. Oh well. I'll just show that here, pretend like that never happened. Anyway, before anyone wastes a picket sign on this, there is one reason that Mech is so crazy right now. And that reason is that this right here. The user cannot be debuffed or grabbed while charging electromagnetic release, which deals 24,000 damage. So what this means is that because this element flies and can pull you, and has piercing shots, which can deal up to 25,000 damage, once they start trying to wind up their combo, you cannot stop them unless you kill them first. And pretty much every element will struggle to do this except like Dragon, Obsidian, maybe Heaven's Wrath. I mean, it's gonna be tough when you're looking at basically 20,000 damage per second off of this thing. I mean, people have not been using mech, and I'm glad they haven't, because there are certain lobbies where it's just straight up unstoppable. You can't. It's so incredibly strong, and it's really a lot of fun. Anyway, the next two on this list, I forgot to put Bolt in the A tier. It's like here. Bolt is just good. I know this is such a disjointed video, but it's fine. I'm gonna shove Bolt right there. It's just good. Has the stunning power, but it's docked a lot because friendly fire in 3v3s. Stop. I don't want to get stunned by you. Stop. Anyway, the next two placements on this list could really be reversed. Destruction and Heaven's Wrath. Both of these elements are really, really good in the current meta. Destruction deals with projectiles a lot, which almost all of our top picks deal in heavily. I mean, well, you can see what we've got left here. Nature, Krampus, to a degree. Arc. All three of these have a considerable amount of projectiles in addition to Obsidian, Dragon, Mech. And so Destruction's just going to have a field day absorbing all of it. Additionally, that stun makes stuff like Obsidian, Prism, Cosmic especially, a lot easier to trap in Implosion. It has that slash kill one shot, dealing with stuff like Nature a little bit easier. And then Heaven's Wrath, which was already very dominant in 3v3s, especially because of that incredible range, counters a lot of the currently really good elements. Heaven's Wrath practically nullifies Necromancer's existence. Heaven's Wrath can kill Mech. It can kill Obsidian fairly easily. It can kill Dest. I mean, it can kill Cosmic, which is a massive deal. It can kill Prism, if you play it right. It can pull Krampus out of the air. It can usually kill Nature. It might struggle a little bit with DV. I mean, it pretty much is a very good counter meta option, which is not going to really see a massive diminish in performance whether you're doing one thing or the other. It's just, you know, there's stuff that edges it out a little bit, like Nature. I underrated the hell out of Nature, man. Really, I did. Here's the issue. It can use an iframe and teleport wherever it wants every 3 seconds. Well, not quite wherever it wants. Wherever it has a seed network, but it's essentially wherever it wants. Those points can also be on the target and onto their basically full heal tree, which also damages anyone close to it. They decrease your damage output by 40% while they have their leech seed on you. They deal a ton of damage with Seed Storm. And it's just so many other things that this thing does, and it's just a cockroach. It doesn't die. And add that to its, again, considerable damage output, spammable iframes, and it can solo lobbies just on its own, and it's hilarious how good it is. I hate that I have to put Krampus up this high, and Krampus needs to die. So tell me, why Bean felt the need to add Inbird Eruption, which is 84,000 damage on average, to Ash Pit, which is like one of the best stuns in the game, can last for like 5-6 seconds if you're not in a really fast element or can use iframes on demand. Allowed this element to also fly and have a get out of jail free with chain grapple. And allows this element to gain 1/5 of the damage it deals as a shield. Krampus will always be near the top, and I hate that because it's annoying as shit. But with that said, it's not really broken. I mean, there are counters to it. You can get out of it. It's not that bad. DV, though, is right now at the top of our S tier. Oh my god, crit mode is so crazy when you master it. I mean, you can win some absolutely crazy DPS races. You can beat Necro in their own graveyard, which is a crazy feat. You can with the Q and E change to switching forms, you can mix forms a lot easier now. It survives on freaking 500 health all the time and makes insane comebacks. I mean, just crit blow alone, if you can hit it, is 12,000 damage that ignores damage reduction and goes through shields. It is crazy. For those that have mastered crit mode, basically just Cinder and I think books as of right now, DB is just scary all the time, and especially in 3v3s, when it'll kill somebody and be on low health, and now it's in tenacity mode, dealing more damage, having lifesteal, and taking like -5 damage. Like, it just doesn't die. It's a fucking cockroach, and it will come back from nothing and just murder you. It's crazy. And now we have to start on our broken tier, starting with Cosmic. One word, Calamity. This move, let's just take a look at this. This move, Calamity, is a mobility move that deals almost 8,000 damage and grants the user 4 seconds of invincibility and, oh wait, debuff immunity, which means you can't pull them, grab them, stun them, anything during that time at all. Now let's look at Galactic Creation, which is because of the way the hitbox is broken right now, it's the entire arena, but it's like half of the arena AoE that deals 12,000 total damage and is usable, oh wait, every 6 seconds. This thing is broken as hell. It's also got, just casually Cosmic Form that's the 100 speed. That's pretty damn good. I mean, this element is, with Calamity and Galactic Creation, it is just broken right now. And if you don't have any sort of aerial mobility, Cosmic is just unbeatable. You cannot kill it. It is just not a thing. Like, because they'll come in, and then the second you start a combo, now they have 4 seconds of iframes and just get out of the entire thing, and then stun you and kill you. Second place, we have Arc. And this is for one reason, Chromatic Crystal. If you can hit Chromatic Crystal on players, and make sure the damage, and which increases the damage that the players you hit take with it, you can restore Arc's multi-elemental barrage shotgun the ability to one-shot. The thing that was expressly nerfed twice by Bean, so it couldn't do that anymore, and it was supposed to be at like half of your health, not all of your health. You can restore the ability to fist on somebody and one-shot them with a shotgun, which also has the ability to give you shield and lifesteal. Also, as an added benefit in 3v3s, Chromatic Crystal makes other people do more damage to that target. That target takes more damage from everything. Arc is crazy and just not even fun to play against them at those levels. But it's still not as strong as our number one. Prism went from one of the worst elements in the entire game to the best with the rework because of the combination of blue and yellow crystal, which is a pull. Yellow crystal deals about 10,000 total damage if you stay in that beam the entire time, and blue crystal freezes, but green crystal pulls, and it can be used every 2 seconds, which means it is possible to spam pulls into guaranteed 10,000 damage while also getting beamed with Chromatic Crystal and having the damage your opponent takes, increased by 32% per second every 2 seconds. Essentially, simplified, that you get pulled once you die, which is not a very hard criteria to fulfill. Not with an infinite range pull, anyway. And Chromatic Crystal is probably going to have to be disabled from Arc for any, the Cosmic needs to get nerfed. For any of these, think about moving down at all. Anyway, if any of you were looking for a final picture, there you go. There's your picture. You don't need to worry about the commons, really. Thank you for sitting through my bullshit through all of this, man. I'm a little scatterbrained, and this is my first time putting together a proper tier list video like this. So if you have questions, leave them in the comments. If your element isn't where you want it to be, DM me an essay and I will think about acknowledging it. With that said, thank you everybody for listening to my bullshit. Have a great night. Goodbye.